Ladies, gentlemen, and those of non-binary gender. My name is Bull, and welcome back to a new episode of Bulldrek. So, I had been planning to come back after my hiatus, because I haven't done one of these Bulldreks in a while. I've been planning to come back with some scripted episodes, and I have one half scripted and ready to go, mostly ready to go, but I'm going to hold off on that for a little bit because honestly, I'm a little pissed off. And I've decided that I need to talk about something. And I'm going to be honest, it's entirely possible that what I'm about to talk about may strike a nerve with you. It may piss some of you off. It may upset some of you. And well, for that, I'll apologize in advance. Actually, strike that. I'm not going to apologize in advance because honestly, as gamers, we have a serious problem. And if anything that I'm about to talk about bothers you, frankly, you're a part of the problem one way or another. You're either an active part of the problem, you're actively doing one of these things that I'm talking about, or it bothers you for some cockamamie reason, and you somehow allow this to happen, and you're enabling this sort of behavior and this sort of idiocy that's going on. And for that, no, I don't apologize. I don't apologize for that because we need to call out this behavior. We need to stop this behavior. And as a group, as a hobby, as gamers, as geeks, as nerds, we need to be better than that. And it's bullshit that we allow it to happen. So what am I talking about? Uh, I'm talking about sexism. I'm talking about racism. I'm talking about bigotry, homophobia, the anti-transgender. Just allowing this bullshit to go on in the gaming industry, within whether it's in the gaming companies or at gaming conventions or just within gaming groups. There's a whole lot of crap that goes on and it gets overlooked. Sometimes it gets overlooked because people are just like, well, I don't see it in my group. Sometimes it's overlooked because, oh, it's just boys being boys, or oh, it's just how he is, or how they are. Oh, he doesn't really mean it. He's really a good guy if you get to know him. And you know what? All of that shit is crap. And I'm tired of dealing with it. So, what set me off? Um, it's honestly, this is something that's been brewing for a while. And anybody who's followed me over on Facebook has seen that over the last couple of years, I've actually kind of talked about this more and more and gotten more and more upset about it. I don't talk about it a lot because by nature I'm a quiet guy. I don't like to be volatile. I don't like to be an asshole and I don't like to come off as an asshole. But honestly, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing the crap that goes on and I'm tired of putting up with it, and more importantly, I'm tired of other people putting up with it. So I'm putting my foot down and I'm encouraging everybody else to put your foot down. So over the weekend, and this is what specifically triggered me over the weekend, I uploaded some new shirts to my t-shirt store. As some of you may know, I have a t-shirt store, and I have one store that I do that is geek and gaming shirts. Just stupid, silly, fun things. There's a couple of Star Wars themed ones, there's some Shadowrun themed ones, etc. I also have a politically oriented store that I do, that I started up after President MacLeod was elected, because I don't agree with, well, almost any of his policies. And for the record, I always considered myself very much a moderate, and even, conservative slash Republican leaning for the longest time. But over the last, 5-10 years, that's been eroding rapidly. As in my opinion, the line for where the right starts has just been moving further and further and further to the right, and it's gotten to the point where it's so extreme, it's ridiculous. I don't even recognize, most of the Republican Party anymore, and I used to consider myself a Republican. So just so you know where I stand, I mean, I'm not a diehard bleeding heart liberal. Save the planet, save the whales, save the trees. I have a lot of fairly conservative leanings. I'm, and but I don't recognize that anymore. So I started up this store so that I could do T-shirts, and all of the commission that I would normally make off of those shirts, I donate to the ACLU, because I'm not really in a position to do a whole lot of, I can't go out and march. I can't really go out and protest. I can't really volunteer. All I can really do is rant and rave from my little corner of the internet. And while I think I have a slightly larger audience than a lot of people, I don't still have that very large an audience. I'm not reaching that many people, and most of the people that I am reaching, they all agree with me. So this way I can at least, get a little bit of money to donate towards the ACLU, so that some money and something I can do is going to do some good. So, voice is going low. So yeah, so over the weekend I did some social justice shirts. And I always kind of found the term social justice warrior to be a little stupid. But even more than that, though, is I also found it really, really, really goddamn ridiculous that people use it as a pejorative. Yes, it's kind of a silly term, but the idea behind the social justice is the idea of making sure that everybody is on an even playing field. I am a white, male, straight, heterosexual, male Christian. That's who I am. Which means, frankly, in theory, have all of the advantages. And I'm well aware of this. But there's a lot of people that don't. Women don't. People of color do not. The homosexuals do not. The transgenders do not. Whatever. There's a whole lot of people that don't have all of the same freedoms. They don't have the same rights. They don't have the same freedoms. They don't have the same privileges. One way or another, they don't. And if you don't agree with me, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. All right? I have seen all of the arguments, and there is not a single argument that can be made that will let me agree with that they don't. That they're not somehow disenfranchised one way or another. I mean, sure, throw out all the examples you want, but they're singular examples. Or they're examples that are skewed to be just so wrong it's not even funny. But anyways, I'm getting off track. So I did, but I had seen some social justice shirts that were D&D themed that I always thought was kind of neat. So along with the social justice warrior, you had social justice cleric and social justice paladin and social justice ranger, and I thought that was kind of cool. So I decided I want to do some Shadowrun themed shirts along the same lines. So I did up social justice street samurai and social justice rigger, social justice decker, and I thought they were kind of neat. And I shared them around on my Facebook and Twitter, and I shared them over on a Shadowrun Facebook group that I'm a part of. And there's been a few people that have popped up on there that have had less than agreeable opinions. But I kind of thought they were more of the majority than they were, apparently. Because holy crap did this stir up a shitstorm among a handful of posters. Now, to be fair, there weren't a lot. They were just very vocal. But there were still a bunch of them. And I was kind of surprised by this because I always kind of assumed that gamers, because by their nature gamers are nerds, they're geeks. And maybe it's because I'm an older gamer and I come from an age when gaming wasn't mainstream. You didn't, playing video games was, not something that you did if you weren't either a kid or a nerd. It was the type of, it wasn't a thing that was socially acceptable. Role-playing games were not socially acceptable. Board games, if you weren't a kid, outside of like Monopoly, were not socially acceptable. Card games, these were things that geeks did that, you had your little cliques and they were the outcasts. They were the misfits. And so I always assumed that gamers as a whole, the geeks as a whole, would be more accepting of those that are disenfranchised, those who are less, that don't quite fit into the mainstream mold. And it always shocks me when I find a gamer who is just, basically racist or homophobic or bigoted because there's so many of the game of your fellow gamers are that are people of color, are women, are gay, are transgender. I mean, it just boggles my mind that anybody could be. And that's just what it is there is just such a problem within the gaming industry because people don't see it. I'm seeing a lot of articles coming in from women, especially. So let's break it down. There's a lot of problems with women who have been not problems with women, but problems for women, in that there's a lot of sexism within the gaming industry. It gets really hard for women to break in and become writers, mainly because a lot of it's not overt sexism. It's not deliberate sexism. I don't believe, for the most part. I mean, I'm sure there is a little bit of it, but for the most part, I don't think it's overt or deliberate. But I think it's just that it's such a boys' club. It's one of those things where, well, I've got these guys that I know really well, so we're going to invite them to do all the writing. And there are some really, really talented females out there, some talented women, some great women, just amazing people who have a hard time, getting in and getting to do stuff because the guys have all the power. The guys have all the stuff. And anybody who thinks that isn't the truth obviously doesn't understand how this works, how the gaming industry works, and how these cliques and boys clubs and everything work, or you're just deluded and you're part of the problem. And again, like I said at the very beginning, if this is striking home, if you're offended by this, or you're thinking, well, I'm not like that, and that can't be true, and you're wrong, and you're an asshole for thinking that, then you're part of the problem because it is the truth. Green Ronin, Chris Pramis and Nicole Lindros, great people, great friends of mine for a very, very long time. They've got a ton of game lines that they've done. Mutants and Masterminds, they've got their Freeport series, Song of Fire and Ice that they've done. They've done a ton of games. The Dragon Age role-playing game. They've done all of these games. And recently, they decided they wanted to start up a new game line. And one of the things they wanted to do was they wanted to give opportunities to women, and they wanted to get women's points of view. So they specifically put out a call saying, we're hiring for women. And they even said in their call, they're like, look, the guys, we understand, there's going to be opportunities for you to work on this game line later on, but right now we're specifically looking to get people to do this stuff, and we specifically want women. And it set off a shitstorm of all these guys getting all indignant about how they were getting excluded and how this was bigotry or sexism somehow, because one single game line was being aimed at women. And it was just like, that is just fucking ridiculous. I mean, listen to yourselves for just a minute. There are so many game lines out there that are all about the dudes. And this was one that specifically, they're aiming at women. We want a women's point of view. We want women working on this game. We want to give opportunities to women because women don't have as many opportunities. There is nothing wrong with that. And if you think otherwise, I don't know what to say to you. Because you're wrong. Because it is the truth. It is the fact. It is how this industry works. Trust me on that. I've been in part of it for so long, and I can see this. I don't think a whole lot about it most of the time because, well, I'm a guy, so it doesn't affect me. But, every now and then I step back and I can see how it affects some of my friends. I can see how it affects the women that I know that are, like I said, and I mean, I know so many women that can just write circles around me. I know so many women that are just so much smarter, so much more talented, so much better at this gaming thing than I am. I'm jealous of their ability, but the fact that they can't break in or they have a hard time finding, gaming gigs is just unreal. I mean, and then you take in the fact that, the harassment that goes on. I mean, a woman steps up and has an opinion, and she is getting threatened. She is getting sexually harassed. She's getting called all kinds of things just because of what she said. It's amazing to watch because I can see, and again, I'm going to talk about Green Ronin because I see a lot of this from Nicole and Chris. And it boggles my mind the difference of what happens when Nicole says something and Chris says something. They co-own the company or whatever. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but they are Green Ronin, and they say they're in total agreement on everything as far as I know, and they say the same stuff. But Chris doesn't get the crap that Nicole does. They could say the exact same thing, and everybody's just like, "Oh, well, Chris said it's okay." Nicole says it, and well, what's a woman know? It's just fucking unreal. And this is the sort of shit that needs to stop. Um, and there's just you got it, and this is why I'm trying to take a stand. This is why I did the social justice shirts. This is why I occasionally rant and rave. It's why I'm doing this. Because I have friends who are afraid to go to conventions because they've been to conventions and they've been sexually harassed. They've gone to conventions and they've had guys sitting at their table go, "Well, listen, sweetheart, I'll explain the game to you." And they'll be like, "Well, I know how to play." "Oh, you don't know how to play. Let me show you how to play." They go to conventions, they get hit on unwillingly, and you know what? And I don't necessarily know if that's okay because, they're not there to be hit on, they're there to game. But at the same time, guys and girls are going to flirt with each other. But they get hit on and then they tell the dude no, and the guy just keeps persisting. The guy keeps hitting on her or whatever, or gets mad when he gets turned down because it's his right. I don't understand that. They get threatened. Just all kinds of shit goes on. And, all the years I've been going to conventions, I've not seen a lot of this. But that's because I'm a dude. This stuff doesn't happen to me. And the guys who do it are usually smart enough not to do it out in the open. And good Lord help you if you ever do that shit in front of me. I may be old, I may be fucking broken, and I can barely goddamn walk. But I will still fucking take your ass out if you do that shit in front of me. You harass any of my friends. You harass any of the women, men, gay, transgender. I don't give a shit. You fucking harass them. You abuse them. You do anything to them. You will have one very, very angry bull at you. I will tell you that right now. Oh my God. But, and this crap goes on. It's just. And, and I know I'm not being very eloquent about this. Like I said, this is kind of an off the cuff thing, but it's just because I'm pissed. And it's something I think needed addressed and it needs to be talked about and people need to understand. This shit happens. All right? Racism happens. I have a ton of friends. I have a whole bunch of friends. I have black friends. But it's true. I have a whole bunch of friends who are African American. I got friends who are Middle Eastern descent. I've got friends who are Hispanic descent that go to conventions. And I can look at every single, almost every single one of them has mentioned at one point or another having seen or encountered or come across some sort of racism towards them because of their color. Especially because in the gaming industry and in gaming industry and in gaming, people of color are a little more rare. It is predominantly a white industry. And so you get a lot of this, "Oh, will you game?" Get a black guy sits down at the, a black dude sits down at the table to game, and everybody's sort of like, "Are you in the right place?" And it's like, dude, he's just as geek as most of you, if not more so. You get these, I've got friends who are transgender. I've got several friends who are transgender. One of whom is a game designer. One of whom is a great game designer. She does some amazing stuff. And I know that every single one of them has encountered issues with people who don't respect their preferred gender, who don't respect them, who don't understand. Some of them don't understand them, and that's probably an issue with education. But at the same time, some of it's willful. Some of it's just like, well, I'm not going to understand you because I don't agree with you or whatever. So, they've gotten it all. For being gay, for being gay or being lesbian or whatever, they've all encountered some sort of bigotry in the gaming industry from fellow gamers. And it's just, it's crazy. I had a friend who just recently was talking. He's doing a superhero game, and he puts in the very beginning of it. He was talking about this on Facebook, that he's including a clause at the beginning of it in the little introduction to the game, that the game is, he by nature inclusionary. He's making he writes a thing about how, everybody's welcome to play and everybody's welcome to make any type of character they want, whether they be, gay or lesbian or bi or whatever gender, transgender, per people of color, whatever. And he ended it with basically making kind of a joke about it by going, that's because superheroes don't exclude anybody. Superheroes will save anybody. It doesn't matter what their race or religion or their whatever. And almost immediately somebody pops in, replying that, oh, well, so what you're saying is, superheroes will exclude people who will exclude people. Well, that seems very exclusionary, and that's bigoted. And so they're making the, only bigots are bigots, it's bigoted to be bigoted argument, which is just complete bullshit, too. And really, if you need me to explain why, that's just, I'm not going to. That's a whole thing. But, I mean, it's... Alright, I'm going round and round, so I'm going to wrap this up. Long story short, because I've been rambling for way too long now. Long story short, fucking stop it. Alright? Don't be an asshole. Don't be a bigot. Don't fucking be a Nazi. Alright? There he is. I'm going to bust out the N-word. Nazi. Because that's one of my things I've also decided, is I've decided that I'm going to call anybody who's a bigot a fucking Nazi. Because you know what? My friends, people I care about, my female friends, my black friends, my gay friends, my transgender friends, all of them, they live in fear. They live in fear that their rights are going to be taken away, or that they're not going to get the rights that they deserve. Because there's still, a whole bunch of laws on the book that are preventing various of my friends from doing the same sort of shit that I can go out and do. Just because of, their lifestyle or their choice of who to love or their choice of who to be. And that's fucking bullshit right there, alright? Nobody should have less rights than me. That's number one. So those friends, though, they live in fear because of that. They live in fear of the growing fucking white nationalist racist bullshit that's growing in this country because of fucking Trump. Trump enabled it. Trump made his speeches, built his speeches and built his platform on fear of Muslims, on fear of black people, on fear of the transgenders, of not just Trump, the Republican Party, the conservative, hardline conservative base. But the problem is they're influencing everybody else now, and there's this growing willingness to be a fucking racist, to be a fucking bigot, and be a public bigot. There's no shame in it. It used to be there was at least some shame for a while. I'm sure there was always bigotry. I'm sure this shit always existed. In fact, I know it always existed. But there was shame in it. They knew better than to say outright, be proud of being a fucking racist. And now it's a badge of honor for some of these assholes. So I'm calling them Nazis because that's how it started. Once upon a time, the Nazis weren't, they weren't Nazis. They were just a bunch of assholes who had very strong opinions about people of other race. until it escalated. And I don't know if I'm not saying it's going to escalate. I don't know. But it could. And that's just, that fucking terrifies me. And I'm not even the target. But my friends are, and they're afraid, and they're scared, and they don't know what to do, and they're frustrated, and that's bullshit. And until that stops, I can't stop saying shit. I can't stop standing up for them. And you shouldn't either. Everybody, all gamers, should unite. We love comics. We love our games. We may disagree with rules. We may argue over rules all day long. We can flame each other over what's better, the Street Samurai or the physical adept. We could argue all day long over who could win, Batman or Superman, or Batman or Spider-Man, or whatever. But at the end of the goddamn day, we're geeks. We love the same things. We should be united. We should not hate each other. We should not be yelling at each other. We should not be putting each other down. And we should certainly not be enabling anybody who does that sort of shit. If anybody causes fear, anybody causes my friends to be scared, they're wrong. They're bad. They need to be stopped. They need to be just, these things need to change. And we can only change. Everybody needs to change. Everybody needs to be better. And everybody who agrees needs to stand up. Because that's the only way this will change, is if enough people stand up and say, knock that shit off. Oh, God. Alright, I'm done. I can't rant anymore. Like I said, this has been way longer than I meant it to be, but for fuck's sake, people, seriously. Heads out of asses. You know what? Social justice is a goddamn badge of honor, in my opinion. So, fuck you if you think otherwise. That's it for me. I'm out. Take it easy.